Hey guys, welcome back to Baltimore Comic Con Live. I hope my camera isn't a little as laggy as it looks, but that's okay. It's digital. We're in a Zoom culture right now. We're used to laggy video. I am so excited to get into this next panel. We're doing a deep dive. We are hopping the rooftops of Gotham City, and to help us hop said rooftops is a face and a voice and just the most lovely person I know on the planet. Is Miss Amy Dallin. She's over there just cracking up. Like, I have never seen you frown in your entire life, Amy.
Well, I'm going to try to see if I was going to say if I can keep smiling through Gotham, but that makes it worse, sort of, because there's lots of reasons that might happen. But
it's not a happy place. But Amy, before I pass it off, I got to do one thing. For one of your guests, I have to show this one piece of art before I hand it over. It's for it's for Miss Joelle Jones. I just wanted to show off this one piece I have because my wife is actually from Cocoa Beach, Florida, and we purchased when we heard that Lady Killer. I know Lady Killer is not a DC book, but she's from Cocoa Beach, and we purchased this original piece of art from Miss Joelle Jones. I'm about to step away, but I had to show it off because as soon as we found out Lady Killer issue number 2 was going to be set in Cocoa Beach, we had to purchase this original sketch, and I just had to show it off on camera. And so that's our big homage to your mystery guest, who I just totally spoiled. I'm sorry.
This is wonderful. That's fantastic. And because these are the kinds of creators that we just cannot contain ourselves about, I am glad you started us off in that way because we have an incredible panel today. We have 4 creators doing. I think this is like a victory lap panel because the 4 people I'm about to talk to have been putting their mark on Gotham in incredible fashion for the last several years. Please welcome Brian Edward Hill, Cecil Castellucci, Tom King, and Joelle Jones. Oh my gosh, hello! How is everybody doing today?
So cool to see all you guys. I miss you. Where are you? Why? Oh my goodness.
All right, so I will slow it down and go one by one. I would like to know, please, how you're doing, what area of the world you're coming from, and then start thinking, because in a second I'm going to ask you for your favorite or earliest DC memory that made you fall in love with either Gotham or DC as a whole. But we'll start out. Tom, where are you coming from and how are you doing?
I'm relatively well for the midst of the plague and all that. I'm in downtown DC, right near the Supreme Court, and it just got cold here. And yeah, I'm here with my 3 children. Are always home with me. It's a new world.
Aww. Joelle, how are you doing, and where are you speaking to us from? There we go.
I am in Portland, and it's freezing here too.
I'm in LA, so I have to imagine what it's like to have cold anywhere.
Yeah.
Brian, what about you? Where are you coming to us from?
Yo, it's your boy Brian Hill. I am broadcasting from downtown Los Angeles.
Excellent. And finally, do we have...
What's the puppy dog's name?
First of all, yeah, dog's name.
Oh, this is Bogey. He's a tough guy.
Hi!
I could tell.
Oh.
So perfect for our primarily panel. Cecil, may I put you on the spot? May I say, what day is it? Is it a special day of some kind? Is it someone's birthday on the panel right now?
This is my party in Gotham.
What can possibly go wrong? Where are you zooming to us from, or whatever technology we're using?
Los Angeles, California.
Oh, top row, LA. I do think that makes Tom our official winner of closest to actually at Baltimore Comic Con, though.
Woohoo! Yeah, that means I'm king of the panel. But I grew up in LA, so Joelle's really the one out here.
Oh,
I just moved back from LA.
That's right.
there we go. I am so excited you all could join me for this panel, and I cannot wait to get into all of your contributions to Gotham. But I want to make sure that folks watching this know that once we're done with all my selfish questions, you all need to send some questions because I can't wait to throw them to these folks on the panel. So get ready. If you want to put your question in chat with the word question so it's easy to find, our excellent moderators will be on it, and we will be picking all the best ones in the back half of the panel. So first off, though, before we get into the dark and the gritty and all of it, I would love to know, do you remember a moment that you fell in love either with the Batman mythos or with DC in general? Brian, do you have one?
Yeah, like the first joint, right? It was probably this Batman and Robin book that had a cassette with it. And I don't remember what they were doing. Like they were probably going after the Joker or something. But it was like you play the cassette and you turn the page and the whole thing. And that was probably my first like real DC memory.
That's fantastic. What about you, Cecil?
Well, I've told this story before. For me, I fell in love with Adam West, Batman, and I invited him to my 4th birthday party, and my mom made a costume for my dad. I sent him an invitation, Batman in the Batcave. And my mom was worried that I was going to be, freaked out if Batman didn't show up. So she sewed my dad a costume. My dad came and gave me 2 books. One was the omnibus of Golden Age Superman and Batman. And this was before I could really read. And so that's what I cut my teeth on, were these sort of huge books of Superman and Batman in the Golden Age.
That's amazing. Of the world's finest birthday to start it all off. Joelle, what about you? Do you remember a moment?
I think growing up, I was really big into Marvel and didn't read very much DC until the cartoon came on, the Bruce Timm. And that's when I first gave it a chance, and I really fell in love with the villains and the whole vibe. So yeah, that was mine.
I feel like there's a whole generation that was brought into that mythos by like the artful choices on that show and those interpretations of the characters. Tom, what about you? Was there a beginning?
I remember being a super young nerd hipster. In the fact that I like Joel, I was into Marvel. I liked the Avengers as a kid. That was like, and then so '89 Batman hit when I was 10 or so, and every kid suddenly in school who had never read a comic book in their life wore a Batman T-shirt. And I was like, oh, fuck all you guys. Batman's so mainstream, man. I like Black Knight. He's metal, he's cool. I remember at the time, I remember just Batman was that was what everybody else liked. I had to like something else, or else I just wasn't isolated and nerdy enough for my taste in the genre.
What made you finally realize, all right, maybe there's something to this Batman thing?
I got that first royalty check from Batman 1, and I was like, okay, I get it. This is a phenomenon.
I 100% believe you. Yes. I'm curious for the whole panel, what do you love in a Gotham story? What makes them special as far as you're concerned? Want to go the other way around, Joelle?
What do I love? It always seems like, I love how dark it is and how gritty and how it really gets into the psyche of the characters, but can also be kind of camp at the same time. I think it's a fun balance between all that. So I think that's what I really like.
There's room for so much different so many different modes of storytelling with that one consistent world. Cool.
Yeah.
Brian, what about you? What do you love in a Gotham story?
Oh, well, with Gotham stories, like the real world can creep into the storytelling. So there's always consequence around everything. And that's the most exciting thing for me to be able to write, because the small things still matter in Gotham stories in ways that they might not matter in something more cosmic.
Cecil, what's the secret to a really appealing Gotham story, or a really memorable one?
I think it's got a good balance between heart and sort of their duty to Gotham. I think that when they're sort of straddling that, I think that's what makes a good Gotham story, because I think it's the sort of inner struggle of the characters and their secrets, light and shadow.
What about you, Tom?
I like the idea that Batman sort of suffers for our sins a little bit. Like my favorite Batman stories, really, when I got in, were like the Frank Miller DKR Year One stuff, and just that idea that the world is always just on the edge, and that Batman is feeling that edge harder than anyone else, and that he's in the middle of that hurt, but he will never let that hurt stop him. That's what I like best in the Batmans. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So all of you have been contributing amazing pieces to Gotham Mythology for the last several years. So first of all, thank you on behalf of me and everyone in chat and everyone reading all of your books. I'm very curious. Cecil, I got to ask, you're wrapping up your Batgirl run this week with a very exciting final issue from what I can tell, and with a very cool and intriguing new arrival. Can you tell us a little bit about Batgirl 50? This is literally just me asking because I want to know.
Sure.
I
I'm very, very excited about Batgirl 50. There's a main story and then there's two backup stories. And one of the backup stories has all the Batgirls in it, not Betty King, but all the Batgirls come together and Birds of Prey. So I'm pretty excited about that one. And then, just to add to all the Lady Bats that are in Batgirl 50, it's the first comic book appearance of the new Batwoman, Ryan Wilder.
That's amazing!
So it was really exciting when my editor, Jessica Chen, said, what would you think? Do you think maybe you could find a way to put Ryan in there? And it just was such a natural fit with what, from what I know about Ryan, to have her and Batgirl sort of have crossed paths before, and so I'm very, very excited about about Ryan Wilder, new Batwoman.
What was the process like of trying to put together something like that? Which I honestly, I'm so used to being like, I'm going to count down to this for the next 9 months, and then I'm going to count down at 6 months and at 4 months, and it feels like this was like a surprise. She's in the comics in time for me to get excited for TV. How?
Well, I mean, they just asked me, and it's just a cameo. It's not her story. It's not her emergence or anything like that. It's just
I feel like there'd be 100 games of telephone involved in that, and y'all pulled it off somehow.
No, it was just like, here's the information about who Ryan Wilder is. What do you think? And I was like, oh, I've got an idea, and and I just put it in there.
That's fantastic. I am curious, for your run on Batgirl, how did you settle on what the big themes were going to be for dealing with that character in that corner of the world?
Well, for me, I was saying this to Tom in our earlier panel. For me, I came into Batgirl and she was in 3 crossover events. She was in Year of the Villain, City of Bane, and Leviathan. So I just really wanted her to sort of be centered and find her heart and really sort of come into her own, and to honor, to have her grow a little bit more. So, obviously I had a response issue to the Killing Joke, with my Joker War, issue where she sort of gets to flip the script on the Joker. And I felt that was really important. She also fights a robot that is Oracle, which, is sort of like fighting the best parts of your own self. So I had a lot of really juicy stuff in there. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to leave Batgirl for whoever may take up the baton later with enough threads to really be able to do whatever they might want with Batgirl. And I think you'll see in Batgirl 50 that first of all, Batgirl is one of the most, I think she is the most resilient Bat, because, she, no matter what you throw at her, she's like, how can I be a hero? No matter what happens to me, how can I continue to be of service to Gotham? How can I grow and change? How can I learn from what has happened before? So I really wanted to leave whoever picks up the cowl for her next, as many threads as possible that they could pull on, with her varied history. And, hopefully move the ball a little bit forward with her growth.
Absolutely. Brian, in your now, I think, over 2 years that you have spent with Black Lightning and what would eventually become the Outsiders, between Detective and Batman and the Outsiders, you spent a lot of time dealing with the questions of what the best way to sort of do service to Gotham is, right? A lot of internal disagreements in really interesting ways. I would love to know, how did you go about deciding who your team was on that? Because that's one of the things that really, I think, stands out from your book is this incredible chemistry between all of the folks that you assembled for that.
Well, it kind of stemmed out of that little run I did in Detective Comics, right? And conversations with me and editor Chris Conroy, who's like a really good friend of mine. So, he asked me like, okay, so you have Black Lightning, you have Batman, who else would you really want, like in an Outsiders thing? And so I was like, well, Duke and Katana. And so we just kind of, sort of put our heads together and figured out what team would work best for the story I wanted to tell, right? So the reason why you don't get characters like Metamorpho and, and all that is I wanted to be a little more kind of intimate with the characters, and honestly, a lot of the work I've done on Batman and the Outsiders was really inspired by the work Tom was doing in Batman. Because like it had gotten to the point where, well, yeah, man. I mean, it just got to the point where I didn't feel like there was anything I could really bring new to it. Like it felt like I could sort of carry the ball like 10 more yards to hand to somebody else. But then when I saw what Tom was doing, and these stories were like remarkably internal and they were emotional, and it mirrored what I was doing in screenwriting and television writing in a lot of ways. That showed me that like, oh, okay, there's a way I can approach this where it doesn't just feel like I'm babysitting another Bat book on a shelf, but I can do something that has hopefully a little richness in terms of emotion and emotional consequence. And so that was really my way into all that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tom, that actually leads nicely into your wonderful and very long run on Batman and the much anticipated upcoming Batcat, which we're all so excited to finally get a look at, especially with your brilliant partner in crime, Clayman. I am curious, speaking of that emotional impact, you're consistently interested, it seems like, in your work in looking at events from different perspectives, in that sort of internal kind of discovery. Is that something you've intentionally chased in your different work, or is there something else that you want people to pull out of the threads of your Gotham stories?
Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I think, I don't know, internal discovery seems to be just how you write stories. Like,
yeah, fair enough.
I'm sure like Jonathan Hickman could break it down to me why eternal discovery has nothing to do with stories in this metaphysical way. But to me, like, yeah, that just seems to be, I don't know. When I look for a story, I look for someone who's just looking for someone who's trying to find something in themselves or in someone else, and then either discovers it or doesn't and learns from that. But I mean, yeah, then that's what Batcat is about. It's about actually two characters who deal with that very differently. There's one character, Batman, who doesn't change, sort of, who never discovers anything new about himself for a good reason, because he's like almost a perfect character. And then Catwoman, who's a very who has changed a lot, who has gone from a villain to a hero to a villain again. It's about why those two people match together. One
sort of dynamic and one static, but always drawn together.
That's exactly it. That's the whole theme of the book, and it's told over 3 time periods. It's in the future after Bruce dies. It's in the past when they first meet, and it's the present. And so you see like how they change and don't. Yeah, static and dynamic. I should have thought of that. That's brilliant. Where were you when I was pitching this damn thing?
I'm curious. I want to make a self-deprecating comment because you just reminded me that I was like, yeah, writing stories. What happens in them? But in my defense, y'all are the experts, and I literally am here to find out all of these secrets. Joelle, speaking of Catwoman and her ever elusive true nature, you are continuing on covers on that book, but have given us one of, in my opinion, the great Catwoman runs. And I would love to know, what are sort of your reflections on having written and drawn her? What did you learn from the process? And maybe specifically, how do you make such wonderful moments of suspense? Because you have both like you've done both just the writing side and the writing and art. But I'd love to speak to thoughts on Catwoman, what you might have learned, and how do you make it so scary?
I think that just comes through naturally. I don't think I meant to make it scary, but I try to take an approach like I find writing to be tedious and boring, and I don't really enjoy it that much. But I don't like being told what to do either, so I have to write it myself. So I just try to entertain myself, try to make it interesting, and usually that involves like, taking a break from drawing really pretty people to drawing really ugly people is a fun thing. And normally if I get caught up in a situation, I'll just ask myself, what do you want to draw? So if it's a talking head scene, it gets really boring for me. And I don't like doing dialogue anyway. So I'll just think of a really cool location, and that can influence the story and where it might go next, and add another layer of interest to whatever's going on.
That's fantastic. So what you feel like you're just following sort of your muse in this circuitous path, and for the rest of us, we're seeing this beautiful operatic tapestry that you're creating.
What I loved about, the beginning of Joelle's Catwoman was how she sort of dealt with the idea of beauty in that, and like I think that sort of like takes that Catwoman to a totally other level with that woman removing her face, and the idea of female beauty just was amazing.
Oh, I like to see so.
But I have a question. So if writing is boring, is art not boring? Is it not boring to draw?
It depends on thumbnailing is boring. Roughing is boring. Inking is the light.
Inking is a delight.
It can be tedious.
Maybe writers should start thinking like that too. Like, what do I want to draw, even though I don't draw? Like, maybe because sometimes, I agree. Writing is sometimes it's hard. It's boring.
Boring. It's
Yeah.
boring.
It's boring sometimes.
How do you know when you're onto something exciting? Is there an internal sense of the way, Joelle, that you're like, this is the setting that's going to make this conversation fun? Is there a sense with ideas or projects where you're like, that one in that direction?
Yeah, I think, I tend to know where I want the story to go, and to get from scene to scene. It's like, what was it? When I was doing Lady Killer, it was a talking head scene that I had to get out of the way. And I thought, how to make it interesting. I set it in a bingo hall.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really excited, and it was really fun. And I got to write what the background characters were doing, and how, trying to focus on bingo cards and a really heavy conversation at the same time, what that would look like. So just adding layers to make it really interesting, I think.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. I find that boring when I'm like, crap, I just want to write a nice talking head scene, but I try boring background descriptions so there's something fun to draw. So I'm on the opposite side of it.
I know that I'm excited about writing something if I get goosebumps, or if I'm weeping at not out of frustration, but out of I've moved myself enough to actually cry, in an emotional scene, or if I burst out laughing, then I'm like, oh, maybe that's okay, and I'm onto something.
Your first test audience. Brian, what about you?
Yeah.
Is there a sign that you're going the right way?
Usually when I'm writing, I'm drinking.
Is that true? Do you write? And famously, Alan Moore's never been sober while he wrote. And he does all right for himself.
Well, you see, okay, here's the thing, Tom. I can't get drunk, because then your boy just goes to sleep, right? So I have this big goblet, if I was Drake sized wine. And I'm really classy, so I put ice cubes in it, and then I white wine in it, right? And so I kind of sip, and the music's going, and I tell you what, if I feel like I'm working, then I know it's whack, right? When it's working, it just feels like freestyling over a beat or something, right? It's it for me, writing when it's working feels like I'm capturing something that's already happening. I'm not doing it. They're just talking and they're just doing things, and I'm just trying to catch up to what they're doing. When it feels like effort, then I'm like, this is whack, and that's pulling teeth, and that's where I'm down with what Joelle was talking about. That's boring, right? Because you're like, this isn't hot, I'm just pushing my way through it. I'm not finding it. But for me, writing is really similar to making music. And both those things, it's just not, you shouldn't feel like you're working.
Brian, I just said that when me and Tom were talking. I was
I can
talking
vouch
about
for it.
how it is like making music, and it's like one of the having been in a band before, it's the closest that I've come, the collaboration with artists, but it does feel like making music. And I agree with you in terms of when you are in that flow of writing, it doesn't feel like an effort at all. I think that's also why I write my favorite parts first. Like the parts that I'm excited about writing, I write those parts first. And then sometimes I discover that I don't need the boring parts that I thought I might need. So it's not quite an outline, but it's just sort of like, what am I really excited about writing? And I'll write that. And then, and then maybe I can cut out the boring talking head scene. Although I love plays, so I love a good talking head.
Well, the talking head stuff is kind of like, those are the verses, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when I'm writing a script, I know what the chorus is. And if I think the chorus bangs, then I'm like, okay, I know I got the chorus, right? Heads are going to be nodding. Like, this is going to be all right. And then I just got to find the lyrics, right? So when you're doing the talking head thing, you just want the lyrics to just kind of flow.
Yes.
You want it to be like a little smooth. So normally I won't really get started until I know what the chorus of the script is.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, I know what this is. I got the hook. And once I got the hook, then I can go in and I can, work on the rest of the track.
Yeah, I think when I'm doing creator-owned stuff, that's why I write the end first. Like I have to know what the end is. And once I usually write the last paragraph of a novel or the last sentence or the last part of a image of a comic book. And then I go back because then it's like, okay, I know what key this is in or whatever.
Okay, but let me ask you though, like when you do that, does that end hold the entire time or does it change by the time you get to it?
So I would say that it pretty much holds. Every once in a while, it's like just to let's say that's the mountain. Sometimes it's just to the right of the mountain or just to the left of the mountain. But it definitely, it's like that's been my star to sail by. And it pretty much stays on point.
Right on.
That's amazing. So this is making me very happy because I am never happier than when it seems like something might turn into a musical at any possible moment. But my personal bias showing up to this conversation. I will ask though, because my other favorite form is comics. And those of you who've talked to me before know that this is my favorite question. What's so great about comics? What is it that makes it the form you chose or one of the forms you chose? And what do you enjoy about it? Joelle?
I think just speaking for myself, what I really love is that it feels really personal. Like taking the book, I decide what the pace is going to be like. I turn the page. I decide if I want in my peripheral vision to look ahead or, it feels super interactive and it feels really personal. And, I feel like I get to know the characters really intimately as opposed to like in film or in novels.
Tom, what's so great about comics?
I mean, it's hard to say, but I think because it started out as such a disposable medium and still has sort of that sense of itself. So it's a deadline medium. It's a thing that has to come out, and therefore it forces you to create. And it lets, like, I write a comic and I finish it. I send it to my editor. My editor likes it. 3 months later, it's out and it's in the world, and I've created something. Having written a novel, that's not the process of a novel is you write it, you rewrite it, 3 years later, maybe it comes out. And the process of a movie or a TV show, you write it and then it never comes out. So like
they send it to the moon and then maybe it eventually, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like Joelle said, because of sort of that aspect of it, that it's like, get this out the door, you worry about it less. And so you're more yourself. And so it's a more cut to the bone medium. It's a way to, it's the most personal of all mediums, I think, at least that I ever played with.
Shauna Lindsay's right. That's a great answer. Thank you, by the way, for the comments we've been seeing throughout. We are going to be getting to those questions soon, so get ready. Cecil, what's so great about comics?
I've said this before. I'll say it again. What I think is amazing about comics is the capacity for silence. That you can't quite get with any other medium. The way that you can rest on a page, the way that it can be so loud with no words at all. I'm always trying to figure out how I can throw words out. Although I do like words a lot, but but once you get that art in from the amazing collaborator that you're working with, often the first thing is like, how can I make this more quiet, in some way.
Nice. Brian, what's so great about comics?
When I was growing up, I was broke, right? Like I was growing up in St. Louis. I mean, this is long before my Neo Tokyo synthwave nonsense I'm broadcasting from right now.
Fantastic, by the way.
So like comics, that was like the first entertainment medium that I could actually afford. I could buy it with my own money, right? I go to 7-Eleven, I mowed some lawns, I get a Slurpee, and I get a couple Batman comics, and kind of get down like that. So, I think for me, I always first felt ownership in entertainment. Like this was mine. I bought this. I could collect these, and that really kind of bonded me to the medium. And then still to this day, nothing makes little explosions go off in my imagination like a comic book. Not even though I work in TV, film, whatever. Like there's something that happens with the way sequential art plus words bonds with your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that magical combination of it's shown to you, but you could still invent around it. And it's just so unique as an art form.
We have a hello from some Okie dude and some love for Postal both coming out of chat.
Oh, we love you back.
Those are fabulous answers, and this is probably a good time. I still have a couple I'm going to throw at you, but officially the floor is open. If you have some questions for these amazing creators from the various streets and neighborhoods of Gotham, the floor is now open for your questions. In the meantime, I would love to know before I get sidetracked and forget to ask, what are you working on right now that you are excited about, or what do you hope people will look out for? And I'm going to cheat and pick Joelle first because I am very, very excited for January and February. And I think you maybe have some Wonder Woman stuff coming our way.
Yeah, I'm part of the Future State. So I think they're taking it over for 2 months. And then I'm doing a new Brazilian Wonder Woman, which has been so fun. I got 2 pages to go on this issue. So that's super exciting.
How did that come about?
I think, it was originally part of 5G. I think they tasked me with the idea of it. And I got really excited about showing a different type of female superhero. And I think I didn't have any work to do during the quarantine, so I just did tons of research and design, and it was fun. It was fun to just like chill out in my imagination and not have to turn in stuff for a while.
Just to get to simmer in the ideas there. That's fantastic. All right, I'll just go in between questions. Meow Nyan asks question. Gotham has always been described like a living entity. So if Gotham were a character or person, how would you four describe them? Ooh. That's interesting. Tom, can I put you on the spot? You first.
Fucked up, corrupt. If Gotham were a person, he'd be, he'd be a dirty cop taking a bribe. That would be Gotham. That's how I see it in my head.
That's so sad. Inherently set out to do something better, but barely remembers that time.
That's right.
Cecil, what about you?
I think Gotham would be a femme fatale.
Ooh.
That's such a better answer. I hate that. Stop.
What can I say? She's a she and she's complicated.
I love it.
Brian, what about you? How would you describe Gotham as a character?
Yeah, I'm down with Cece. Like Gotham is like, Gotham reminds me of a specific person that I won't name, who
is it me?
Was fine.
Oh, it's
and
definitely me.
Crazy, and like it took me years to set myself free of it because you knew that even though that night was fun, morning was going to be hell, but you did it anyway, right? And so that's like Gotham for me, right? That's who Gotham is. Gotham is the kind of thing where you hang out with Gotham for a weekend, and then you could probably do a whole R&B album the next month because you've been put through it.
That is so Gotham. It's true.
Joelle, what about you? Who is Gotham?
Everybody gave really good answers. I don't know, like a frenemy, like somebody that you can hang out and stuff, and then when you go back and you realize, like, oh, that was really dark and really prickly. I don't like that.
That's a very specifically terrifying way to go with it, actually. This sort of, those were bad feelings. Bird's Eye View asks, question, if you were mayor of Gotham, what would you do to make it a better place? Tom, how about you start us off again?
I would figure out very quickly that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and I would go to him and be like, you're a fucking billionaire. Why are you wasting your time running around on the streets? Why don't you spend some of that time actually cleaning up? You have billions of dollars. Clean up the goddamn city. Hire some people. Spend this money. Why do you need a mansion for?
Cecil, what about you? This, I think, is partly a theme in your Batgirl book. You might have some answers ready.
Yeah, well, Barbara does work for a congressperson, but if I were mayor of Gotham, I would definitely, go to Barbara Gordon. She had her company, Gordon Clean Green Energy, and I would rebuild Gotham. The infrastructure of Gotham to be green and sustainable.
All right, Joelle, you're mayor of Gotham. What do you do?
I guess if I'm out to do good things, I would start with looking at IRS stuff for the crime family. I don't know.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good way to go. That's how they got Al Capone, and it could work on all kinds of tax evading criminals. Just saying. Brian, what about you? Mayor of Gotham. What's day one?
Oh, hold on. I gotta be a politician, right? Well, in order to actually affect real change, what you have to do is you can't do it from the top down. You got to do it from the bottom up. So I would have an education initiative to make sure that we don't get confused the difference between fighting criminals and fighting crime.
I would just like to say that Batgirl does say that in Batgirl 50.
Oh, heck yeah.
Go from the bottom up. Yep. So,
I love
Brian, I agree with you.
Brian, you did the voice, but you also had like a legit good answer buried in it. I like that. So you're sneaking the message in.
That's because I'm going to be president one day.
Okay, sure. Honestly, very down. Philosophy just says, wow, in appreciation of that one. While we wait on the next question, Tom, what have you got coming up that people should be excited about?
Strange Adventures is still coming out. We're halfway through the story. We're at issue 6. The director's cut comes out next. You get the first issue and all the behind the scenes, and then now we're just accelerating the end. Rorschach #1 just came out.
Congratulations!
And,
how was talking to Dave Gibbons?
It was nerve wracking. That's how it was. I don't know how you moderators do your job. It's much harder than my job.
You're all very intimidating. We're faking it.
Oh, good. That's what I did. That was what I did. I faked and pretended I belonged in the same room as Dave Gibbons. He saw through it and kicked me out, but it was a nice 5 minutes before. So I Rorschach is now coming in those issues. Well, once we're on issue 7, I think, in the can now. So Jorge Fornes is killing it on the art. It's the most beautiful book. And then Batcat #1 comes out in December. But I'm not working on any of those because I've already finished them because we had this stupid plague and I got so far ahead. So I'm working on books that are not even on the screen.
Oh my
So
goodness!
those books are all done. That's the past.
Cecil, what do you have for us to look forward to? I saw you in a couple of my faves, the YA anthology type books that are coming out. I spotted your name in a few.
Yeah, I've got a Supergirl story in Flashbacks. And I'm really, really excited about that because it's all about the solar system. And I just showed it to a space scientist friend of mine. And they were like, oh my gosh, there's so much science in here.
Yes.
And then I also got to do Wonder Women of History that comes out in December. And I got to do, I really like outer space a lot. And I got to do Ellen Ochoa, who was the first woman of Hispanic descent who was in space, but she also was the director of Johnson Space Center, which I visited for research purposes. And so that was incredible. And then I have a 10-page story in the DC Metal Dark Knight Last Stories, that thing.
Last Stories of DC. You guys are shutting it down.
I don't know.
What do you do with a brief like that? And everything. Go.
So that was actually really fun. I won't say what character because I don't think it's been announced, but I got to sort of write a St. Crispin's Day speech for that character, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm kind of hoping that some actors or some people will do that St. Crispin's Day speech. Just film it because I've worked really hard on it.
Internet, that's a challenge. You're hearing that, right?
Yeah.
I expect you all to deliver.
And then I have a couple of things that aren't announced yet that I'm very, very excited about. Some creator-owned things. So yeah.
All right, Brian, what are you working on that we should be excited about right now?
Okay, well, first, I just want to thank everybody who's in the chat who's been supporting me with Batman and the Outsiders way back to Detective Comics. I love all y'all. Really, the love that I've been getting from that, to the heart, and I really, really appreciate it. Coming up in the future, I got a mini-series thing, a DC thing that I can't really talk about at all right now, but on the way, stay tuned. I'm going to be pulling away from doing monthly books because I'm also a co-producer of the Titan series on some DC streaming now, moving around. We're in season 3 right now, right? So
a much anticipated season 3.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because we got Red Hood. I can share that. I can't share anymore. But it's going to be really dope. And because everyone on this chat is a homie, I've put little Easter eggs about all y'all's work in the show. So y'all have to watch it and find out which episode I'm talking about you.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really. I don't play. You know me. I'm just dead up. I'm always 100,
Are we getting a paycheck or?
No, of course not. No, well, you're not, Tom. Everyone else is. So I took yours and I split it up for everyone else to get.
That's right.
We have a hat. You get a really nice hat.
Same amount I'm getting for WandaVision, I guess.
With a T. Oh, good. Yeah, we put that right next to the other one.
We're going to come back to that. I will pop in for this question from Andre Paul, and I feel like this question answers itself a little bit on account of it's Batman. But question for Tom King: why is Batman super sad in your run?
Because somebody killed his parents. You guys not read the book? It's on the first page. It's there's pearls involved. You guys should research that. He's very sad about his parents dying. And then he tried to get married, and it totally didn't work out. For a while. Then it got better. Why is Batman so sad? I think Batman is so sad because Superman is so happy. Honestly, I think that is probably the reason. I think when Schuster when they created Superman back in the day, they created this sort of ideal Midwest. These were two kids from Cleveland, Midwestern version of a guy who sort of represented the optimism of America and the best of America. And then sort of the response to that was from two guys. One, a guy who died, an alcoholic, and the other one, a con man of the most American vein, and very sort of gritty urban people. And their response was, no, the world in America isn't like that. The America is dark and sad. And so I think the two of them are sort of play with these two different versions of America and these visions of these their creators.
I've never heard anyone link it to the creators in that specific way. That's really interesting. Erwin Rosales, by the way, says they're very much looking forward to Joel's Wonder Woman. I am curious, Brian, as someone who has played with versions of Gotham into completely different media, even though I made you go to bat for comics earlier, and I basically agree that they're the best, I'm just saying, what has been interesting or challenging about working with that very different version of the DC universe?
Oh, well, when you're working on a television show, you're part of a larger group, right? So for people who aren't really familiar how TV works, it really is a collaborative thing. And your job as a television writer, if you're not running the show, which I'm not, I'm just a co-producer on the show, is to facilitate the vision of the people above you, right? Which is very different than when you're writing a comic book because you have more control, kind of how you're going to present things. I mean, there's editorial and all of that, but you get more of like a kind of straight to my imagination vision of it. So I think the most challenging aspect is to not have my kind of preset ideas about what should and should not be, and to be open to what is organically happening in the story we're trying to tell, because you can have all these notions of well, this character shouldn't do that and that shouldn't happen and that shouldn't happen, but ultimately that's not great for collaborative storytelling. So for the first season, I had to kind of unlearn that karate and learn like what the show was kind of all about, and then sort of shift to how can I, with all my years of reading comics and my years of writing comics and my love of these characters, how can I contribute to what is happening, rather than just being like, you know, that character on The Simpsons who's like, well, that is impossible because Dick Grayson is actually 6'1", and he would not make that jump that way, and it is invalid and therefore worth nothing. So I can't be that guy.
I think it's a coincidence that Meow Nouns, oh my God, I can hear it, just showed up. But you are doing a spot on comic book guy. Thank you so much, by the way, for the questions that are coming in chat. Please keep them coming. I do think it's very funny that what you've said unintentionally maybe lines up with what Joelle said about the fun of writing your own material as an artist because no one is telling you what to do.
Wait a second. I wrote things for Joelle. Oh, in fact, I think I wrote the last things before you decided not to work with any writers anymore. I get it. I get it.
Sorry.
No, that tracks. That tracks.
I'm curious just because we've been talking about Batman a lot, but we also on this panel have representatives of other areas of Gotham. This is just my very long segue to say, let's talk about Catwoman. What makes her special? And we'll make Joelle go first so you all don't have to audition your answers first.
I mean, I always really like that she's sort of in a gray area. She's not a villain. She's not a hero. She's, you know, complicated, and she's a really complicated femme fatale, which is kind of rare, I think. Yeah, I like that she kind of skirts around both things and can look at a situation from different angles than the other heroes.
Tom, what makes Catwoman special?
God, I love that character. I just wrote the Batcat Annual, which is John Paul Leon is drawing it.
Oh, wow.
And I got to write, the idea was I wanted to tell like her whole life story from like literally the day she was born to the day she died. And it was just amazing just to look at like pieces of her life and how she changed. I mean, she's someone who's like, she's been in Arkham Asylum. She's been friends with the Joker. She's, you know, married Batman. She's not, so many characters that I work with are just, they're stuck in sort of either the first dimension, you know, I'm a superhero for being a superhero, or the second dimension, I'm a superhero because my uncle died. And I have to, but she's actually three-dimensional. She actually doesn't make sense the way regular human beings don't make sense. She changes her mind. She becomes new people. She takes on new identities. And to me, she's just the most real of all the characters in the Gotham universe in that way.
That's beautiful. Cecil Brown, if you have ideas on Catwoman, you can. Or if you want, maybe just tell me, who do you think is an underrated element of the Gotham crew and what you love about them?
Now, I want to talk about Catwoman. What I love about Catwoman, just to jump off of what Tom was saying, you know, when you think about when Catwoman arrived on the scene, women were in a different place. You know, now we have more sort of agency, but she had agency.
She couldn't have a credit card. She had to steal
exactly,
places.
but right from the get-go, Catwoman was Batman's equal. Selina, you know, she was his equal. And she was living as a woman on her own terms. And I think she continues to do that no matter what era she's in. And I think that that makes her very extraordinary. And I think that lends itself to her complete complexity.
I love the way that oftentimes characters who are transgressive or intended to be transgressive in their early incarnations become symbolic heroes to later generations, as we're sort of like, it's great that she was doing her own thing because the regular way of things happening was no good at that point.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, what about you?
Well, you know, I think to that point, Amy, you know, it's Catwoman to me has kind of mythological connections, kind of going all the way back to Lilith. Really, right?
Yeah,
and we see like what's happened with Lilith over time, where first villainous because she was bold enough to want to be equal, right, and to live on her own terms, and now she's like the embodiment of, you know, kind of like feminine power, right, like and the majesty of it, right. And so I've never written Catwoman actually, but what I've always loved about the character is the experience of the pleasure you get from not restraining yourself, you know, like whether it's in like Joelle's work or Tom's work, and that's like, and they're both writing like incredibly sexy comics, by the way, right? It's like on the DL, right? It's like super sexy stuff. Or you're thinking about like Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns, you know,
Yeah.
like just like the freedom in that, and I love any character that in a full-throated way doesn't apologize for desire, right?
I think Lilith is such a great touchstone for Catwoman. In my opinion, I'm sure that
Absolutely. I got to do a panel with Terry Moore yesterday, so Lilith was very much on the brain because some of the extended Terry Moore mythology plays with those same principles. I love some Okie dude pointed out that Catwoman is also a different kind of yin to Batman's yang as opposed to Joker, but they make their own sort of duality. Yeah, that lovely comment. And then Shauna Lindsay asked if any of you were influenced by, I think it was Shauna Lindsay. There we go. Did you take anything from the Gotham TV show in terms of backstory or interpretations for Catwoman? This is for anybody if you happen to have drawn inspiration from that.
I've never seen it.
I know y'all are very busy making the comics that we love, so we don't actually expect you to have seen every possible interpretation of them. But I will be interested over time to see if all of these other media representations of the characters inevitably play a part in the way that we fall in love with versions of Gotham. Brian, are you ready for a generation raised on Titans to tell you that you think that that is the way it should be?
I mean, they've been telling me everything. So, you know, it's really crazy. Like working on Titans was the first time that in like my Hollywood career that I worked on something that everyone kind of had a strong opinion about one way or another. And that's been really awesome, you know, just to kind of be in the center of that fan energy like that, you know, and I guess, yeah, like people fall in love with the one they fall in love with, you know, I mean, like I grew up on Frank Miller and Tim Burton, right? And those incarnations of Gotham City have a special place in my heart. Batman the Cult is probably one of the most formative kind of works when it comes to,
yes, we had some love for that in chat earlier. I think popped by the screen, didn't have a chance to call it out, but I would love it. Gotham Treasures, sorry, just as we continue, if anyone has any particular favorite visions, I would love to throw that out just because I love to expose people to more stuff that they might need to read. Brian, I'll let you finish. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I was done. You saved me from the lack of thought I had.
What are some underrated classics from the Gotham mythos that you think people would enjoy tuning into if they haven't, for example, checked out The Cult or Norm Brayfogle or whoever might have brought something to the mythos that is underappreciated?
I mean, I'll always see the plays the Marshall Rogers detective run. I think it's the second best Batman. It's from the late 70s. It's the Steve Englehart writing. And I think it's like 8 issues. You can get it collected in various trades, but it's to me it almost was the rebirth of the character in a way. It was like Neil Adams had sort of hinted at what Rogers did. Like he's like Neil Adams didn't quite escape the camp, and that was the first time when it totally escaped the camp and it became the dark detective that it was today. So the Englehart Rogers run detective. Find that.
Excellent, great pull.
I think I love the fact that Barbara Gordon was a congresswoman back in the Bronze Age.
Yes.
You know, that
Those are fun comics.
Yeah, that she and like the original like Bronze Age Batgirl, where like she's like doing internet dating in the 70s and like computer dating and like like one of her villains, it's like about a wig that like it's squeezing people's heads. I mean, I would love if I ever got to do like an out of continuity miniseries with Batgirl again. I would love to do like an ERA 1970s, like just completely campy Batgirl. So I love the fact that she was kind of like the AOC in the Bat universe back in that time. So I would say it's a pleasure to go back to that, especially as a woman who reads comics, or writes comics, reads comics, enjoys comics. It's just such a pleasure to look at the sort of like this feminism that's in there, and how they were trying to bring that forth.
And there's a lot of sort of earnest energy in a lot of those early attempts to sort of update comics to that stuff. And sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it works great and it's super charming.
Yeah.
Joelle, is there a particular era of Gotham or work that you would love to point people in the direction of?
I mean, my touchstone is the Frank Miller take on Gotham, but I'm pretty sure everybody's read that.
You never know. That's what I learned working at a shop. Is it was never safe to assume that people already know what they should read. I will keep introducing people to Saga until the day they put me in the ground, because it turns out not literally every person on Earth has read it, and that's not enough people. So, so Frank Miller, always a good pick. Would you start with Year One or Dark Knight Returns?
Well, I started with Dark Knight Returns, and it worked out well for me. So, going wrong for anybody else. But yeah, I love it. There's something really immediate and exciting and visceral, and like, I don't know, it's textural to me. And yeah, I love it.
That's fantastic. I think that is going to about run us out of time. But before we go, I would love to know if people want to keep up with all of your various projects, maybe things that you've hinted at that might be coming into being, what would be the best way for them to do so? If you have a newsletter or a website or a Twitter account, or none of those things. And we'll just keep reading our various previews and previews adjacent publications to find out where things are going on.
I'm going to use my time to say that I will be on Election Day. I will be in downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at Fat Jack's giving away free comics to voters. So if you vote, come by Fat Jack's. I'm signing them. You can pick them up. You go in line or whatever. Free comics, Batman comics, plenty. Just go out and vote and then pick up a free comic.
Tom, that's incredible. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to say, I'm at Miss Cecil on Twitter, but I'm going to say, since it's my birthday wish is that everybody goes out and votes. So please go out and vote. And if you're in the DC area, then go and get Tom's comics with your voter sticker.
Philadelphia area, not DC.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Philadelphia area.
We got the votes in DC.
Yeah. Sorry.
This is the part where Joelle tells everybody to go out and vote.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a blast. Everybody else can do it.
Thank you so much for being here. And Brian, where can people find you?
Oh, well, everybody knows I'm the bum on Twitter. You can just find me it's just my name because I have no imagination. So it's just at Brian Edward Hill. That's Brian with the Y. And go ahead and vote. Like get out there, make your voice heard. You gotta use the right to keep it.
Thank you all so much. This has been so much fun. I have been Amy Dallin, and thank you for letting us hang out at Baltimore Comic-Con.
Amy, I don't want to wrap you out quite that quickly because you have done just the Lord's work here at Baltimore
I keep going
Comic-Con.
over time. Sorry.
You, no, I know. We got like a minute or two, but I just want to give a big round of applause to Amy Dallin. You did like 1,600 panels at Baltimore Comic-Con, and you crushed every single one of them.
If you're getting enough sleep, it is not a convention. Kids, don't take that advice seriously. Take better care of yourselves. But
well, we can't thank all of you guys enough. Cecil, Tom, Joelle, Brian, everybody. Everybody that turned up for Baltimore Comic-Con. Massive thank you to all you guys, especially Amy, because you've just been working your butt off. It's a
delight. And Chuck, thank you. You all have run a wonderful convention.
Well, we're not done yet. We got hours and hours and hours left to go. Right after this panel, we are going to be doing a live reading of Mark Waid's Kingdom Come, with Mark Waid moderating it, with Susan Eisenberg, the voice of Wonder Woman from the Justice League. She's going to be reading the voice of Wonder Woman. And then we got George Newbern, the voice of Superman from the Justice League, going to be reading the part of Superman. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So stick around for that, guys. We got so much awesome stuff coming up in Baltimore Comic-Con. Can you tell I'm getting tired? Okay. All right, guys. Well, stick around for more Baltimore Comic-Con action right here. Huge thanks to all of you guys. We'll see everybody in just a little bit.
Great birthday party in Gotham.
Happy birthday, Cecil. Everybody give Cecil a big happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right, guys. We'll see you in just a minute.